Well, if you heard music right now, we'd be introducing you to the Church of Rock. Welcome to the Church of Rock, where we use wisdom, modern breakthroughs, and a dash of wonder to rebuild the foundation of your life. Just time to start playing it again. I got to see why, because I was...
So, do you think anybody's going like, what the hell is happening here?
No, I don't even think anybody's watching, to be honest. Hopefully not. I got two people watching. All right. So welcome to the Church of Rock.
What is this?
The Church of Rock is essentially a place where we can have conversations, delve into the supernatural, the spiritual thing, in a day and age where things are just getting so bizarrely focused on technology and beyond. The necessity for human and spiritual connection couldn't be more needed than a day and time like these. And the idea is all the answers have been already provided to us. We have all the resources we need available. We're just drowning in information, searching for wisdom. So the opportunity is to connect. But
before we get into today's topic, I was wondering,
who are we?
No, I was wondering if you could talk about what led up to this, because this is technically kind of the first episode of this ever of all time. And I know you have a thing planned too, but I want to take a minute and say, why are you doing this? What is this? And why is this important to you? And what's it all about?
Well, I believe we're all on a journey to find something more. And I feel like people are getting lost. We can even get lost with all the things that are coming in at us and for us and make your life easier, more simple, more what have you. And by doing so, we start chipping away. And actually, quite honestly, I think during those crazy COVID times, people really dove into technology, i.e. what you're doing right now. So if you're watching right now or listening right now, you're using some form of technology, which is a beautiful thing. However, what I did notice is a lot more leaning into technology and a lot less humology and spirituality, where people are losing the ability to connect individually and also connect spiritually, where there's a certain making other things our God as opposed to connecting to God and with God.
I mean, if we're going to come to like a Church of Rock, and if anybody's going to watch this, shouldn't they know kind of what this is rooted in for you? So what's your, like, what led you to be so I was going to say ballsy in the church, which I feel like I can say balls in church.
I guess. Well, church is just a label. Yeah, it's just a label of a place for us to gather.
I mean, temple.
And an intimate.
You really don't want to use the word balls in a temple per se.
I suppose that might be right out.
That might be right out. But
out.
But here's the thing. The question is, why are you doing this, Bono? Like what gets you to this point where you're like, you know what? I have some spiritual. Have you always been a spiritual guy? What's been your journey?
Yes, I've always had
share that a little bit. I think I want to. Inquiring minds want to know, Douglas.
Have always had a deep curiosity and connection around what's going on in the world, what's possible, what inspires. Hey, Tim. What inspires us to dig deeper and essentially, it sounds so corny, but to do the right thing. Like, it just seems like we've lost our way, and it's almost like we've glorified being the bad person or glorified having issues or problems, and almost like people are getting more rewards for dysfunction, for having a challenge or an issue, and not celebrating our gifts and our ability to hold each other at a higher appreciation and a higher standard, if that makes sense. I know that's kind of cryptic.
You? Come on. You're never
Never.
going to be correct.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is you feel like people have lost a compass,
Some
a moral compass.
some have, yeah. I
And
think it's we've
what makes
normalized it. We've normalized nihilism to some extent, or
and for people who don't know what nihilism is,
like the non-existence of God, to rely on anything but to essentially a nihilist would be, in other words, an atheist of sorts.
hmm And so, what kind of traditions do you pull from? Like, what's your amalgamation of what's your alchemy of beliefs? Like, what is this stew of Church of Rock that we're going to be? Are there potatoes in it? Is there some potatoes like Hinduism? So we got some,
All of them.
we got some Buddhism in there, like a little bit of carrots. What do we have in the
It's
stew of
all of
your
them,
church?
and will be ever growing. And it's also, by the way, not
So it's
not
an interfaith approach.
yeah, and beyond. It's also incorporating, like, I think it would be fantastic to have also more dialogue and have people share what their beliefs are, how do they utilize their connection to their higher power? What do they call it? And we're not labeling anything other than the appreciation of an existence beyond our comprehension that adds value beyond us, that keeps us on the path.
And I just want to offer, from my perspective, why I think this is so important. So, not coming from a dogmatic or a belief driven necessarily perspective, but as a way to come together to promote inquiry, self inquiry into the depths of your psyche and your spirituality to figure out and find what resonates from within you. And the reason I think this for me is such a passion and such an important thing, like why create a psycho-spiritual place for people? Why not just make videos on psychology or, breakthroughs like you guys have been doing in the personal development world? Why all of a sudden the spiritual element of it? Well, we just played in the spiritual development part for 30 years, where we just kept the spiritual kind of side hidden or didn't overtly talk about it. We would just use personal development, and that's all God too, right? If you
Right.
think about certain traditions, it's all rooted in Christ consciousness, etc. But here's why I've come to this conclusion that we have to talk about a psycho-spiritual approach from this point forward. Because many, many years ago, you guys know, if you don't know this, I'm Heidi, Doug's wife, and my specialty is liberating people that are suffering from addictions to bad habits, addiction to substances, addiction to relationships, addiction to toxicity, addiction to dysfunction. Okay. And Carl Jung, many years ago, whenever they asked this brilliant mind, they said, what do you think the key is to human liberation from all addictions, internets, habits, ignorance, power, all the addictions that we have? And Carl Jung said, well, the only cure I've been psychoanalyst, I created the psychoanalyst. And all my research points to one path, and that's spiritual awakening. And then Bill Wilson, who was a student of Carl Jung, said, or in the lineage there, said to himself, you know what, he's right. He went on an ayahuasca journey. He came up with the 12 steps as a spiritual path to awakening. Now, over time, that path has turned into a one-way street for many people. This is what you need to believe. This is where we go to church. This is what we do. And there's a whole group of people who that works beautifully. They found their higher power, right? And the whole purpose of that program is to help people find a higher power so we can be freed from our addictions and our delusions and our attachments. But there are so many people in the world today that haven't found that. They're like a spiritual orphan that doesn't have a home, that kind of believes this or kind of believes in God or but there's questions for them. They're like, well, where's the feminine face of God? Or, where else? I do find truths. Maybe I do believe there are many roads to Rome. Maybe I do line up with Christianity, but God, there's parts of Christianity that I'm like, whoa, I don't know that skirt, that doesn't make sense. And so the reconciliation or what's the word whenever you're out of conflict with yourself,
Dissonance.
Yes, the cognitive dissonance that creates makes us search for one singular path, but then we stay stuck because we're not quite experiencing God directly. We're still relying on other people who've told us maybe they've experienced God directly, and they have the path, but the path doesn't quite ever get us there, right? To this enlightenment or the awakening. And that's the path that I want to encourage all of us to take is an internal awakening from within that is guided by people who say, hey, here's the options. Hey, have you heard of this? Have you studied, what have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you learned like an alchemy of ideas so that it triggers something in you that you might resonate with something, that it'll take you to a higher understanding of your own consciousness and root down in what it is that you've believed all along, not because you invented it or we invented it, because it was resonant.
And the
resonated.
Yes, and well, we can get into now a whole conversation around frequencies and how that is becoming more and more apparent as to how important recognizing the frequencies, recognizing that there are different ways that we can connect and utilize. Like just so you know, when we do a closed eye later, it's going to have frequencies that are embedded into the closed eye meditations in the music so that we can bring our vibrations to, and I know it sounds so hokey and corny when you say things like that, but it's true. Everything resonates at different frequencies.
It's the Church of Rock. It's really like a musical theme.
Yes.
If my husband's a former rock star, still a rock star to me, okay, by all imagination. And, music is his love, right? And your first love was music, and you worked in that industry and had wild success. We don't talk about it a lot, but you did. You won Grammys, you did all kind of cool stuff. And then you used to say, when I would say, oh, well, how'd you get into personal development? Why? You'd say, oh, I want to help people make music of their lives, and that made a lot of sense too. I was like, wow, that's perfect. But it wasn't until this next evolution of that together as a couple where we're like, wow, no, this is like God's orchestra.
Yeah. How
can we activate the horn section? How do we get the saxophone players to know their saxophone and play? Like, how do we find the instruments that are God's instruments and help them vibrate and help them play to make this beautiful cosmic symphony that we're all here to create?
And what's so interesting,
not to get too deep.
Yeah, no. Well, we could talk metaphor around that. So like in music, there's a beauty around the adventure, the ups and downs, the slowing down, the speeding up, the pauses that also add to the value of music. And unfortunately, it seems that we've been conditioned as well over time to expect everything immediately. And that's like expecting to hear the entire symphony in a second. Yeah. And not having the whole experience. You just want to have the at the end of it, the experience going, oh, that was amazing, without going through the process of it being amazing. And when we embrace, and that's what all the messages in all the spiritual works are, understanding that life is an adventure. Life is going to have ups and downs. It's unavoidable.
Like the drums. I don't want the cymbal. I don't want the cowbell. You know what I mean? We're like, oh, and then we don't know how to let other people play their parts. And we get attached to their part and how they're playing their part. And do they play their part right? So.
Well, I mean, Shakespeare said, Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and we're just the players. Well, it goes into multiple angles. This is actually geometric because we have our internal instruments and voices, and if we're honest, we have enough voices in our head. We could have group therapy all by ourselves. Yep. So it's creating fine music out of that, while at the same time we are also accompanying our life. Our, Heidi has her own song, her own sound, all of that. And then how do we find a way to make that incredible combination, and understanding that there are going to be times for pause. All right, so as a great example,
I got to let you play your part. Yeah. You got to be the horn. I can't be banging on my drum and being obnoxious when you're trying to play your saxophone, right? Like I'm doing now. See, I'm beating on it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, but point being that we're finding ways to appreciate that. Now I lost my where was that train going? We were talking about. That have you ever been? I was using an example. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody who can't sit quietly? Like they fill every second. They fill. I don't do that. Well, I mean, I used to maybe, and sometimes we all have moments.
I was talking about myself.
Oh, of course. Well, you do that. Okay.
Yeah, you
No,
do that.
no, you don't. But point being is we've had that experience where we've been just even talking with somebody and they just can't sit and be quiet for a second. Like every moment's got to be filled. Every beat's got to be have something in it. And that can be tiring. So part of this also this conversation around
Making
our
music of your
relationship,
life,
yeah, is
being in
being
company.
okay with, oh, today I'm going to do some classical. It's going to be, more chill, more relaxed, or it could be really intense classical. Or today I'm going to do a big band or what have you. But appreciating the
That's cool. I like
variety,
that idea.
and that's the one of the metaphors we could use as the unspoken in some sense, but our experience of God or spirituality, where we're able to connect with things beyond just a conversation. And that's the challenge with all of this is putting words to it all.
I know. So I think, what is the Church of Rock and what are we doing here and what's our intention? What we're trying to say is that our goal is to be an alchemy pot for you, where
A pot of alchemy.
a pot of like ingredients for the magic to happen for you. And we're going to bring the ingredients, right? We're going to bring different psychological tools, ways to think about things differently.
But we could also could we make it like what's that cooking thing? Like, hey, throw in, talk about something. Yeah, like challenge us here, because it'll give us an opportunity to learn and grow with you.
So just, bringing to the soup of life, right? To the grand stew, that we're all going to enjoy here, different thoughts, different perspectives, different ideas, so that, and some of these things you're going to taste and you're going to eat and you're going to want to spit it out. It's not going to taste good. That's okay. There's plenty of options at the buffet of life. All right. So, sometimes, but don't get rid of the whole pot, right? Just think about our intention isn't dogma. It's not one way. It's not, you need to believe this or that. It is, there's truth in all religions, ideas, beliefs, and structures. Seek the truth. Seek the truth in all of the great traditions. Where is the unified truth? What is the truth, like the great web that brings us all together, that unites us all? And how can we have that interfaith approach and bring it into one place, like the all-seeing eye, right? We bring all that into one place that sees it all, allows it all, and finds the truth within the different ideas.
And to have fun as we're using rock, and it's just about, by the way, the rock is not just like rock, like it's not just that, it's also like what embodies the strong foundation that's in the Bible, on this rock build church. And what he was referring to on one level is something strong, something like that's not sand, that's not water, that's not a swamp. In order for us to truly be able to handle a connection with our higher power, we also are going to strongly benefit from having a strong foundation rooted in trust, rooting in faith, rooted in our faith with each other. Like,
I want to talk about the roots, because so I interpret that, on this rock, I build my church. I think he was talking about his faith.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, you've got the faith. I'm going to build it. So what is that? What is a firm foundation of faith? It has, from my perspective, it's like the roots that we need. Like, we've created these roots, right? The roots of, I think they're the roots of enlightenment. I think they're the roots of
transformation, guiding principles. They're all,
to me, they're the divine roots of the feminine. If we think about the masculine and feminine, the feminine being air and the feminine being the earth and the masculine being the air, and bringing these two elements together, the divine feminine has not been valued for a long time. It's actually been lost in our spirituality. And a big part of my goal is to talk about the divine feminine, bring the divine feminine back into the feminine face of God, and back into the discussion, because my true belief is that we have two holy parents, a mother and a father, and we're the child. And we've denied the mother. We don't know who she is. A lot of us don't have a good relationship. We know Mother Mary that birthed Jesus, but it's all male, masculine driven constructs. And the feminine has been lost over time. She's just been buried, essentially. She's still there. She's always been there. But our job is to let her out. It's to awaken her, and not just in the feminine expressed, but also in all of us. So we realign that divine union within ourselves of masculine and feminine energy, and they're not competing against one another again. They're not in conflict with one again. We're not separating ourselves out and saying, well, this is your role and this is my role, or this is how a man is and this is how a woman is and this is how we are when we're in holy divine union, we've reconciled our feminine with our masculine, and we're able to be fully divine, fully self-expressed. And that's the goal here. So I want you to think about the feminine, the divine feminine, as the roots from which we're able to grow. She provides the nourishment, and she's the earth. And the roots of the feminine are wounded in men and in women. And when you have a wounding in these roots, you are not able to produce the fruits of your life, your success, your ability to become who you were destined to be, your dreams being able to be realized, your relationships being able to be as satisfactory or as fulfilling or as joyful, your ability to feel your feelings deeply, your ability to participate in the great dance of life, the ways you restrict and challenge yourself can all be rooted within these roots. They are rooted within these roots, but the cool thing is you have power over that, because we're going to talk about the keys to cleaning up the roots. It's a root problem that we have. And the 6 roots that we're going to be talking with you about is the root of worthiness, that you know that you're here, that you belong here, that you're not. We're going to rectify that orphan, right? I don't belong here. I'm not good enough, right? What I have to be a certain way. Your identity root, you've lost your true self, you've morphed and bended and shape shifted into whoever you've needed to be instead of your authentic self. Your trust issues, we all have trust issues, and that's why we're here, is because we're trying to work through our trust issues so that we can surrender. Our intuition, our divine intuition, our healing of our wounded feminine, our intuition, our divine intuition, and our ability to nourish ourselves with sustenance, not fleeting quick fixes like our addictions that are feeding us
Like
and
scrolling.
fueling us and scrolling, and really be divinely nourished, so that you're of the world but not in the world, that you can detach from the land of the 10,000 things and be at peace even with nothing, with absolute silence. And that's the goal. So these roots of the feminine that are plugged up and clogged up and have been muddied up for forever, since the very beginning of the beginning, when she was buried under there, we've got to dig it up. And then when you dig up those roots and you get don't dig them up, but cut away the weeds, you get that free flowing energy that's able to come up and be and create and experience the gifts of life.
And this conversation,
And I love that we can have these heavy conversations
Yeah.
with you. I just love it, by the way. But
and
yes,
the
makes me
challenge,
very happy.
yeah, we want to make
Been
it
longing to
okay.
do this.
Well, and make it
Longing.
okay to talk about it without the challenge has become, and using this as, I mean, at the beginning, he said, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am everything. I am masculine and feminine, and you are in my image. And with the challenges over time, the blessing and curse of the flexibility of language, and then humanity stepping in, then boxes were able to be created that are necessary on one level, yet at the same time, we also benefit greatly from being able to get outside that box and start shifting some meanings in our relationship with it.
Energies, and not villainize one energy over the other. And we're doing that. We're in a land of villainization, and we're at war with one another. The men and women in this world are at war with one another. There is no more divine union. It's couples divorcing,
some.
separating. Well, I hope so. And those are called to lead the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to be willing to have a new perspective, just try it on, because the challenges and even this conversation around masculine and feminine is already charged, because people already have some very sort of maybe strict rules or views around what those mean, and that's what we're looking to break down, is to help you adjust and shape your relationship with things that can be complex. Yeah.
And also like words, right? Words come in and they hijack you, because what we're looking for is a direct experience of God. not that you find it in a manual or a dogma but that there's an opening, more experiential opening. And in order to do that, the feminine is the feeler. That's the emotions. You've got to be able to unlock that part of ourselves that's repressed, being able to sense, live in our senses, all 6 of them or 10 of them or 27 of them or however many you believe you have, that we reactivate the ability to be more nuanced than the structure and the steps. The structure and the steps and the laws.
And so, by the way, we're not giving you structure and steps. We're giving you ideas to ponder, to try on, to experience. And by the way, when I do a neurological alignment process, when we get to the highest level, the 7th level of the spiritual
consciousness,
connection,
7 levels of consciousness.
No, neurological,
level
like
alignment.
yeah,
Okay. No, I know.
it's yeah. And we'll talk about that another day. We'll probably go through the process. But when you get to that final piece, the spiritual, like who are you spiritually? There are rarely words for that because it's an experience that is very difficult to articulate. And it actually, and that's why like, we can even go back to saying the word God actually doesn't have a word. It's an experience. Even the Yahweh that they tried to say, it actually is just 3 vowels. There's no consonant, so there's no ability. You can't use just your mouth to say God in its reality because it's an experience, and that's where we are loving to have this conversation to help all of us find a way to be able to experience that. And if we can play any role in helping you experience that and we experience it together, then that is that unity.
And we're going to do it by sharing our stories, sharing our ideas. I'm definitely going to be talking to you about my journey, personal journey, my hiccups with God, and what I found along the way is just like some clues and indicators for me of opening the box up, how I reclaimed the divine feminine within myself and found her again and activated her and found my divine mother, God, how I was able to restore that holy trinity of mother, father, and child. And I'll be explaining these ideas as we go along. And Doug will be bringing his unique, wonderful ideas that he's gathered along the way as well. And it's just a place to share ideas, like Doug said, to brainstorm, to wonder together, to ponder together.
There's an old saying, seek and ye shall find.
Yeah. And so just opening the door.
Yeah.
So what we're asking is we've opened a door, I don't know about you, but I always picture like a big blue door, like around, like with an arc on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you just open the door to the greater mysteries of life, to better questions of life. Like how can we ask better questions? The ticket to a deeper life is deeper questions. I used to ask, what is God? And then when I could answer that question, I started asking, why is God? There's a deeper question underneath the answer to the next question, underneath the answer to the next question. And to me, that's the great discovery of life. That's the purpose of our existence, is to go within, ponder these, and realize our own divinity or connection to the divinity. And by the way, it's not that I think that, there's one ultimate divine and all of the endless expressions of that divine. And that is you. You are a unique expression of the divine. Doug is a unique expression. I'm a unique expression. And once we tap into this understanding, it has enabled me personally to figure out my divine purpose. Some call that your spiritual assignment, or why you're really here. And it's not so much of like, oh, here's what I want to do in the world, or here's the money I want to make, or here's the things I want to accomplish. It's like, what is where my talents and gifts meet obedience to a call, and when you are on this path, what I've been on this path long enough to know now, to hear that completely and to trust that implicitly and to follow that, because it's an act of love for me to do that back to my divine, to say, I love you. It's my gratitude. Hey, thank you so much for giving me this life. Let me now act on your behalf and do what I can do, and not be, oh, I'm so magical. I've got all the answers, but be I'm going to reveal what you've shown to me, and maybe it'll help somebody else. How cool would that be?
Well, and the I don't know how many, you know, like sort of doctors and people of that nature, people like super educated and smart people, what you'll find is as you talk to them, they be like, the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. And that's where we're finding that balance of confidence and certainty and trust and faith, while at the same time being open to the intuition, the messages. You know, the old adage, you know, God taps you with a feather, and then if he taps, that doesn't work, he hits you a hammer, and next thing you know, you get a sledgehammer. And if that doesn't work, it reminds me of a word of my late uncle, a truck. So what we are.
Can I just say something to you right now? I was in meditation today. I've been taking notes about how I wanted to be open and just not have a plan and let, you know, Divine Mother share with her kiddos, whatever, right? Be a channel for her. I wrote down here, and I've never written this before in any of my journals. It says, God sends a feather, a brick, or a bus. And then I wrote, or a hug, a kiss, and a penetration. So I guess it's up to us whether we believe God is going to hit us over the head and assault us, which is the very masculine view, or the feminine view that he's dating us, or God's courting us.
Is it possible?
A hug and a kiss and a.
Well, hold on. And is it possible?
Maybe both.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's
That
one.
is the
It's
divine union.
Yes. It's not like we get locked into. We think it's only going to come from one place. It's not.
Doug, it's too good.
Yeah.
Too good to be bad. It's too good to be bad. So listen, that is very good. And yes, that is the divine balance.
Yes.
Which you are also here to restore. Okay.
We all are.
We keep reminding each other. All right.
Yeah.
So listen, let's just take that in. God will send feather, brick, and a bus, but he'll also send a hug and a kiss and
the slap and soothe.
The slap and soothe. Okay.
But that's, and I think this is where this is where I think people get locked in, and let's use, you know, again, God, Mother Nature, divine intelligence, whatever language we want to use. We have witness for us the cycle of life, the ins and outs. If we watch nature, everything we need to learn is in nature. We have, as Heidi shared, we have the roots, the trees. We have, like, we could boil it down to just a tree. We could boil it down to the cycle of life, and then what our relationship is. We always hear it sounds trite, but about the acorn, you know, doesn't wish it's going to be a pine tree. It knows it will be a pine tree, and it's going to take time, and it may have challenges on the way to its growth.
A pine tree?
No, it becomes an oak tree. It doesn't wish to become a pine tree.
Oh, right. Okay.
It becomes the oak tree. Sorry, yeah, I didn't complete the sentence, but
yeah,
the idea being around identity, right. and
you're not confused about your purpose,
right?
In nature, you just know it.
And then so then we look at our relationship around that, where we see the tree and we go, oh, that's great and all that, but then when we see somebody that we disagree with, we're thinking they should be a pine tree, not an oak tree. They're like, we don't give them permission to just be who they are. Mm-hmm. And then the dogma comes in around how you become who you are, and then or who you're supposed to be. And then again, what's happening is, and again, it's a challenge of language. It's also a challenge of love and compassion, because some of the most loving and compassionate people are going to tell you you're supposed to do it a certain way, and that's because it worked for them.
So
right?
You need to be this and believe this and think this and do that.
And by the way, let's not make them wrong either. Here's the challenge.
Oh, no? Oh,
okay. we can't, if we don't live it, if we're not being it, we're not going to be able to do those things.
No.
Right. So,
so terrible.
Are you saying that we need to, in order to end racism, we need to be racist? No, you don't.
You've really gone too far with that.
Did I?
Yeah, because now we're going to shadow ban us on you.
No, how is that possible?
What are you saying?
What
are
you
saying? I don't know. What are you
just saying that sometimes people do things out of, okay. So another controversial topic. Well-meaning doctors prescribe drugs that people don't need, but they're doing it out of love, and it's what they know. It fits in their model of the world. It's their dogma. It's their paradigm. So what I'm saying is we project, we run a filter. We forget that our model of the world is simply that. our model. And by denying other people their model of the world and who they are and who they're becoming, and by having an attitude that we know what's
But what
best
did
to a
you
certain
say? To
degree.
end racism, you have to, what did you say?
In order to end racism, you got to be
I
racist.
don't understand that.
By making the people racist, going, those people are by having a comment, making them wrong for having
I
their
don't
feelings
understand
or
what you're
opinion.
saying. You got to clarify that, because I know other people are confused too.
If one group accuses the other group of being racist and then it goes back and forth, that's not how you end racism. You can't end racism by accusing people of being racist. You have to create a new paradigm, a new opportunity. You got to fill the vacuum and focus on the what we
So, like
we
Einstein
share.
said, you cannot solve a problem with the same level of understanding that created the problem to begin with.
Right.
Okay. I'm
That's
glad we got
exactly
to-
that's
I'm
exactly
glad
what
we
I
got
said
to-
in a different way. I use those exact words, but in a different order.
You know,
But point being is that just that just shows the norm. But that, by the way, that's human.
language that
That's
shows the constructs
normalcy.
of language and how we're
Yes.
gonna.
And people wanting to have. I believe that most people have good intentions. Most people. Are there some people who don't? Of course, I can't. I'm not going to make any generalization to that degree. However, my experience has been people get focused on process rather than purpose. And then they go, it's got to go a certain way, as opposed to we want to, like, a great example using, well, I'll use music as one example. So when making records and all that, we'd be doing this, and then a screw up would happen. And then here would be the question: was that wrong, or was that jazz?
Right.
And it's like, that was jazz. We're going to make that work. Now, are there wrong steps to do? Yes, there are certain things that don't work in music, just like there's certain things that don't work in life. And now we're getting into universal laws. And, in music, it's a beautiful thing. In nature, it's a beautiful thing. We know that if we don't nurture our garden, if we don't feed it, if we don't water it, if we don't weed it, if we don't do those things, the garden is not going to do well. We don't blame the garden for that. We go, I take personal responsibility and go, what is my role in?
And so many people, if we are the garden, we are the tree, and we don't know how to nourish ourselves. So we're nourishing ourselves with quick fixes. We're nourishing ourselves with meaningless scrolling. We're taking medication. We're having Amazon deliver things. And I think what I want to talk about, what I'm more interested for you is, what is sustenance for you? What nourishes you? I think before we come back next week, a question to ponder this week is this: at your core, at your absolute core, when you strip away all of the doctrine, all the things that you've been told that you're supposed to think, you're supposed to believe, and you're supposed to feel, and you just allow yourself to open to the possibility that there's a deeper intelligence within you that knows exactly what it longs to be or do or have. And I want you to think for a minute and ask the question, what is my heart's desire? What is my heart's desire? And you keep asking that question. You keep asking yourself that question. And I'm going to tell you something, what you could do to just follow the feminine path if you wanted to. And not everybody's going to line up with this exercise, but if you just go down your wisdom centers as a woman and you say, what does my mind want? What does my mind want? This is your mind, by the way, your construct. What does my higher mind want? What does my higher mind want? What does my higher mind want? It's not the Oreo. It's not the Amazon package. It's a hug. It's a kiss. It's relief. It's not the drink I want. It is, I want somebody to hold me. It is not the Ativan I want. I want my life to be simpler. It is not the argument that I want. It's peace. It's, what does my high divine want? What does my higher self want? What is my highest mind's desire? And then you travel down. What is my highest heart's desire? What is my highest heart's desire? My highest heart's desire is to have him stop acting the way he's acting, or have her stop doing what she's doing to me, or have him see, okay, well, what's underneath that? What's my highest heart's desire? To be loved and treasured and cherished, to not feel abandoned and rejected. Okay, that's my highest desire. That might not mean convincing somebody to stop treating you that way. That might mean releasing yourself from a situation so you can experience what your divine heart calls for. traveling down into your belly, into your wisdom center here and your solar plexus, and asking yourself, what is it that my power, my divine power wants to release into this world? What is it that I know is inside of me, waiting, brewing? Where is this, the fire in my belly? What is my intuition telling me? What is my divine intuition telling me? What is my divine intuition guiding me? What am I pretending not to know? What am I pretending not to know about the things that I know I want to do, but I still have fear around what people are going to think about me or what they're going to say about me? What is my fiery heart's desire? What is my fiery gut's desire? What does it long to express? And then traveling down into your womb, what needs birthed? What am I here to create? What is my creation's desire? Where do I want to play? Where do I want to release? Where do I want to let free? It's also a compass. What relationships are not working for you that have resistance there, that want to say, no, you may not enter here? What wants to enter? What is allowed to enter and what needs to exit? The great gatekeeper of energy. Your sacred no. Your sacred no. Your sacred yes. And your sacred yes is found in your pleasure. Your sacred yes is found in the place you've forgotten long time ago, that you've turned off because it wasn't safe, that you abandoned yourself, you had self-betrayal, you let other people climb inside of there and they had no business being there, honey. It's okay. It's okay. Because today's Reclamation Day. Take a big deep breath in, put your hand on your womb and take a big deep breath in. Inside of you, she always has been. It's a conscious decision to let her out, to let her guide you, let her speak to you, let her mother you. That's her deepest desire. And she's always talking to you. Always. You just have to learn to recognize her voice from within. Sorry, I went into got inspired there, folks. I don't know what to tell you. It just comes for me, it's a little strange sometimes, I will admit, but it just kind of comes through and then you got to let it out. I feel like I have to be dutiful when these things come. It's my job to open like Heidi's here. Heidi's awkward and weird person, right? Like strange and likes to joke and makes crack jokes and things. But then when these little messages come through, I've got to let them out and share them with you.
Understood. It was beautiful.
Wasn't it? That's nice.
It was. It was lovely.
It felt good for me too. I felt that in my womb, particularly cramps today too.
Oh. I was a little late and I figured out what was going on with the music. And part of the whole point of this is the dichotomy of a strong foundation in your ability to recognize your divine nature, that how blessed you are and how important you are and how valued you are and how worthy you are, and at the same time be open to receiving more connection, more information, more
and how worthy
ways
and lovable
to do
everybody
it.
else is too. How worthy and lovable you are, and you are, and you are your own unique expression, and learning how to detach from the expectation that other people are supposed to behave how we want them to behave versus how their journey dictates their behaving. And let them have their journey.
Yes, we do that through leading by example, and then here's the ultimate goal.
And then we should wrap it up. Because church.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I had a whole meditation and all. Look at that. Look at that.
Do it.
I have one all ready to go.
Okay, you do it.
But
do your meditation.
We'll do that. But besides, I mean, I'll just add to yours. But the goal here is, if everyone were to receive that mindset, that stability, that grounding, live on that rock of faith, that you are divinely guided, that you are one with God, God is everything, that you have all the resources within you or within your reach, as does everyone else, to Heidi's point. If we all live that way, then that's when the world transforms. The where the strife is, where the friction is where other people are telling someone else that they're wrong and it's supposed to be done another way, that you're not supposed to be that way. Now there are constructs that when living that way, then we will naturally kind of push away, like, murder. Like we're not going around saying like, oh, accept everyone for things like that to the degree that you welcome it into your life. It's okay to go, you know what? I don't want murderers in my world, and don't hang out with them. That's a rather extreme example, I suppose, but too dark.
I would hang out with the murderers. I mean,
well,
but okay. Yeah, sure. We all have
there's a different, right. my point is that it gets to a point of spiritual hijacking if you are not, like, you've got to be smart.
Okay,
don't like people go, oh yeah, I want to hang out with the murderers. Then you go hang out with the gangs thinking that they're awesome, and then they kill you. And then you go, well, that was just the way it's supposed to be. It's like, no, maybe going there wasn't the best thing to do.
I think, I mean, that's a great perspective too. And I from my perspective, I would say that, the goal here is to take a look at our shadows, our preferences and our biases, and start to think about how do we melt love into those.
Right. Like I use an example, like, so using faith as an example, I'm going to hallucinate that you drive. Now, there are guidelines that we have all understood, that there are laws that we all have that keep us on the pathway of not like killing each other on the road. And what is it? Well, stoplights, the double yellow line. Like, if people didn't all agree that driving on the one side versus driving on the other, that's the way we stay, we would live in utter mayhem, because that's why we created roads and stoplights and some sort of guidelines that we could all agree upon and follow, so that we don't kill each other, because we just go, oh, I'm going to keep going. And you're like, well, but someone else is going too.
I think there are really good standards. The standard is don't kill people.
Don't murder people.
Don't murder people. Okay. I mean, it's like the 10 Commandments. I mean, those are pretty, I haven't read them in a long time, but we could go back and visit those. Also, the 10 universal laws could be considered the great laws.
Yes, that it's all intertwined.
I live my life by the universal laws, like cause and effect. Hey, you do this, this is what's going to happen. If you do this, expect that. Your energy, you vibrate here. That's what you attract here. You vibrate here. That's what you attract here. So I'll be sharing those laws with you, that I think that those are God's laws from my mind, the universal laws. And you can share your your idea of God's laws, and then we can riff and just have a stew. And again, it's the potatoes and the carrots and the onions and the meat and whatever it is you're into, right? And you say, oh, I don't like meat. Ooh, I like carrots, it's fine.
Okay. And I'll just leave this final thought, and then we'll do this, talk about reclaiming our rock solid base here in this meditation. But
that sounds dirty at church.
Yeah. One of the things that we dealt with when we worked in the treatment space, the little flew in the face of AA, is that we took the position of the AA are spiritual principles, but there's certain things that we didn't necessarily agree with, and it was really a fundamental in the identity piece, where it's saying I am a certain thing. And there are going to be times where we're saying things that, like, people in the program would give us a little bit of pushback on. Well, no, you got to do that. You got to identify as an addict. You got to say, I am an addict, and otherwise you'll always go back. And then our position was, well, if you say that, you're never leaving. You're never leaving, because you're just saying that's who you are, instead of.
You got to claim. It's like if you had cancer. I would claim it, right? I say I have cancer. If I had addiction, I say I have addiction, but then I would not. You wouldn't hear me speaking life into that. anymore. You wouldn't hear me going, I'm an addict, I'm an addict, I'm an addict, I'm an addict. I mean, shit. I mean, that is we swear at church sometimes. That is a program for, continued suffering and struggle. You are what you say you are. And so if I had cancer, I would say I have cancer. But then after that, I'd say I'm healed, I'm whole, I'm alive, I'm well. I wouldn't keep claiming that I was a cancer patient. I would say, well, I'm a healed, whole human being. And if it didn't work, well, oh well, cool experiment, right? What's the worst case scenario? It didn't work. The best case is it did. I mean, hell,
Well, and
why not
also
give it a shot?
imagine the life you'd be living if all you were doing was complaining and being upset about a situation that the only thing you could do about it is to have a positive mindset. And it's counterintuitive. And by the way, even if, God forbid, someone does perish early, is it better to enjoy the life that you had versus spend the rest of it upset about it? Because that's not going to change.
Yeah, the roadmap is like what helps you experience joy while we're here. How can you can make a heaven a hell or a hell a heaven? That's a fact, right? And if this is heaven, I know I can turn it into a hell. Or if it's hell, I can turn it into a heaven. And I can do that with how I position my mind and with my spirit. And I intertwine these two in a psycho-spiritual awareness. And so that's the aim here. All right, my love.
And the final word on that is that's also ask and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find. That is how you create it. You experience it through your focus. And that's why this is a psycho-spiritual conversation. It's practical spirituality. It's by understanding that we are both a human being and a spiritual being.
Fully human, fully divine, not the divine, of the divine, and in the divine.
How divine?
And the divine in us, and the divine in you, and 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 you.
Indeed. So
I think I'm going to close my eyes and sit down for this one, honey.
Yeah, by all means. I'm going to turn off the video.
Take my shoes off and chill.
There you go. All right. Why don't you go ahead and take a nice, big, deep cleansing breath in. Roll your eyes up to the back of your head till you feel a little strain. And relax. And let yourself settle comfortably. And begin to notice how each breath invites a little more ease into your body, doesn't it? As Milton Erickson, the most modeled and profound hypnotherapist, often suggested, you don't have to do anything special. Just allow this moment to unfold as you let go now. Perhaps you've heard Rumi's words, you were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? And you might wonder, why indeed? Because you hold within you a vast capacity, and each breath can open a door to something more, something even more divine. And take another slow, gentle inhale, deep cleansing breath in. And notice the path of air drifting through the tip of your nose, down into your lungs, releasing tension as it goes. And let every exhale soften your shoulders and calm your mind. With each breath, you relax, deepen, open. Why is it so simple for me to settle into calm? You ask yourself. And as Joe Dispenza often reminds us, When we change our internal state, we change our external reality. So let's begin changing within, discovering that rock-solid stability that has been waiting all along. And allow your imagination to form a gentle scene. Envision you're walking along a quiet path, maybe through a lush forest or a misty plain, drawn toward a sacred space within. In the distance, a stone altar stands, once radiant, now fractured with cracks. You sense it's your altar, representing the foundation of your confidence, your faith, your sense of worth. Notice the texture of these stones, the faint lines where they've crumbled under old doubts or stress or fear. Notice where the cracks are. Allow yourself to sense the longing for restoration. Like the wise words from the Bhagavad Gita, yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. This altar, like your inner self, calls out, ready to be healed. And as you move closer, see the chipped edges, the worn carvings, the soft glow that once might have burned bright. Let any feelings arise, perhaps regret, sadness, or longing. It's okay to acknowledge them. Richard Bandler might say, sometimes you have to see the problem for what it is so you can transform it into something new. So as you connect even more to your higher power, to God, to Mother Nature, repeat this affirmation aloud or in your mind. I recognize the cracks in my foundation without judgment. Now, gently place your hand on the altar's surface. Feel its coolness, its quiet potential. Envision a golden light or radiant energy beginning to shimmer in the air around you, descending like sunlight from above or rising from the earth below. Let that luminous glow gather at your heart center, warming you with compassion and possibility. Draw in that golden light. Let it guide your healing. And as Lao Tzu once said, at the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are and you know what you want. Trust that this glow emanates from your every core, revealing your unshakable truth. See or sense this golden light flowing through your arm, gently pouring onto the altar's cracks. Like warm liquid gold, it mends every fracture, filling the spaces with shimmering strength, forging your altar anew. Tony Robbins often encourages, feel your inner conviction rising, unstoppable. Let that unstoppable energy pulse through every breath. And with even deeper conviction and connection to your higher power, feel the love, the compassion, and the permission to repeat this affirmation. I am worthy. I am secure, built upon unshakable truth. Notice how each fissure disappears, replaced by a seamless surface of a luminous stone, radiant with love and confidence you carry. And I wonder if you can ask and answer this question. Why is it so natural for me to feel stable and grounded right now? Stand back to admire the altar, reborn, solid, glowing with the golden essence of your spirit. Listen to the quiet hum of fresh stability. You might recall the words of Buddha. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. This altar reminds you that you can hold yourself with unwavering support. Feel that unshakable core forming now. And perhaps you could heed Joe Dispenza's invitation to embody new states. Your personality becomes your personal reality. Let your new, stable foundation be the personality shift that shapes your reality. In your mind's eye, step onto the newly restored altar, like stepping into your power. Breathe in deeply, absorbing the strength of these stones, the brilliance of the golden light, the calm assurance that you can stand on a firm base no matter what storms come. And as you connect even more to your higher power, to the divine within, repeat this affirmation aloud or in your mind. I stand on the rock of my divine potential. And then ask this question. Why does it feel so good to trust in my inner foundation? And take a moment to savor this sensation. Like the eternal truth from the Dalai Lama, the purpose of our lives is to be happy. True happiness often begins with feeling grounded, stable, and worthy in who you are. Now, gently draw your awareness back to your surroundings. Notice any sounds in the room, the feeling of air on your skin, the weight of your body, and allow a renewed sense of solidity to guide you as you prepare to open your eyes. And when you're ready, breathe in deeply. Hold it for just a moment. And exhale slowly. letting any final tension drain away. As you wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, slowly open your eyes, returning fully, noticing how your body might feel different, more supported, and more rock solid from within.
As Jesus has said,
Who said it?
Jesus has said, let all who have ears to hear, hear. I feel like I need to like put my hands in a prayer position now and like namaste. Should I just namaste over here or should I namaste? Nah, I'm gonna stay over here.
It's an oldie but a goodie. That's a dad joke. What are you doing? That's what's up with that.
I took my shoes off because that was good. By the way, P.S. Thank you. That was amazing. You're so gifted. Your voice is a wand. I love.
It's something.
All right, my friends.
So we love you for who you are and who you aren't. So this was our first. Is our what's the
It's our first.
Yeah, but what do you call that? What's a cool word you use for that? Our debut.
Did I say debut?
No, I did. I was trying to think of it. This is just the beginning. We're going to.
Hi, Jennifer.
And
Hey, Jennifer.
and Rob, we got to get together. And Kelly, Pad, success coach. Love this. Love the idea on psychospiritual playground for the learning and experimentation. Love it. Dan and Tim Gillette. So thank you guys. And please, let's make this a two-way conversation. We do have a Facebook group that we just started called Church of Rock or The Church of Rock. And this will be on, platforms and the podcasts and all that good stuff as well. But we'd really love near you. We really would love to have this be a conversation that it's not one-sided. We're happy to serve. And we would love to get the feedback and how we could serve you specifically.
Questions,
What are
thoughts, struggles?
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Challenges, thoughts.
Not that struggles are good, but they can be.
All of it.
There's benefits from struggle, isn't there?
Okay.
All right. God bless you. We will see you soon.
And do you do your sign off?
But I love you for who you are and who you aren't.
That's it.
I had already said that.
Oh, okay. Bye.
All right. God bless.